This collection has been put together by Robert Beer over many years, and he is with us today to speak. But first, I'd like to just tell you about him. First of all, we've been working with Robert Beer since we began the gallery 33 years ago on all things Tibetan and from Nepal. He was originally from Wales, became interested in the Gnostic tradition of the East, and traveled to India and lived in Kathmandu, Nepal for 6 years. Yes?
India.
India. He studied Thangka painting with several of the finest artists living at that time. Returning in '76, he was a pioneer in introducing that tradition to the West, and he continues to go to Kathmandu regularly, where his work is greatly respected. He spent 25 years on the drawing board and produced hundreds of drawings and paintings for books, artifacts, clothing, and jewelry. We have two of his major works here, downstairs books. One is the Encyclopedia of Tibetan Symbols and Motives, with its more concise offspring, the Handbook of Tibetan Buddhist Symbols. Robert now lives in Oxford, where he continues to work on writing upon iconography and symbolism of the deities of both the Indo-Tibetan and the Newar tradition, and is recognized worldwide for his expertise. This afternoon, Robert will speak of the cosmology of the outer and inner universe according to the Indian and the Tibetan Buddhist tradition.
I got 1.5 hours to explain something that should take 6 hours, so this is going to be extremely dense. If anybody wants to buy my encyclopedia, what I'm talking about is chapter 5 in my encyclopedia, which is called Cosmology. I read through it yesterday to refresh my memory, whatever memory is. And so I'm trying to kind of connect with things. Actually, when I stand here, I'm in space. I just empty, but then when the image comes in, I can start to talk about it. So first of all, before I start talking about cosmology, I'd like if we run through the very first disc, which is on the process of bronze casting. So can we do that, Sipo? I just want to run through, this is a whole sequence of how lost wax bronze casting, or copper casting, these are actually copper statues, a lot of which are downstairs. The artist who made these is a disciple or student or descendants of a great statue maker called Siddhi Raj and Bodhi Raj, two of the great statue makers of the last century. Siddhi Raj died 2 years ago. I don't know if anybody's read a book called Shopping for Buddhas. Anybody read that book? A few people. It's the story about him trying to find a Siddhi Raj statue in Kathmandu. It took him years and years and years to find him. So some of the work that's displayed downstairs, particularly the large Buddha, is made by the direct descendants of Siddhi Raj. So if you look on the back of the image, you'll see, sorry, can we go to the next one? If you look at the Buddha statue, which is in the right-hand corner of the gallery, you'll see work of this kind of quality, especially the decorations and the carvings, because a piece like that downstairs takes 3 months to make. That's the first one again on the third one, just to show the kind of detail work. This is the actual wax that's used. First of all, a model is made of the actual statue, made out of wax, which is handmade. So this is a sample of the wax. Move on to the next image. This is the wax in the crucible. This is a gas crucible here. So the wax is being prepared for melting. This is Rasan, who's the caster of that Buddha statue downstairs. And his partner is the one who did all the carving on it. So here he's melting the wax in this big crucible, stirring it in and adding other kinds of more refined wax. Move on to the next, please. There the wax is being ladled and poured, mixed well together. Then they're straining the wax. This is Rasan up here, and that's Ajahn down here. These are the two people who worked on the Buddha statue. So the wax is being strained. Then this is a sheet of the wax, which is kind of flattened out. Next one, please. Then he starts to work on the wax from the back, pressing with this particular stone, which is used for just about everything, to begin moulding the face of the Buddha. Next one. So here he's warming a piece of wax over a brazier. Next one. And here he's starting to work on this sheet of wax to make the face of the Buddha. Next one, please. You can see him pushing out, starting to push out the face of the Buddha. Next one. You can see the face beginning to appear with the nose and the shape of the head. Working from the back with the fingers to try and create this image. That's the face is made on that particular one. So just the first part, the face is made. Then the face is, the detail is laid on with like an instrument which is like is made from horn, yak horn. It's like a scribing instrument where you can work with wax. Here he's put in the little tiny swirls which go on the head of the Buddha. Each one is made from a tiny, tiny little ball of wax, which he's put on this, which is just over the brazier. So he's picking off these tiny balls of wax, swirling them in a clockwise direction to make the hair, so you can see where he's putting them in at the bottom there. Detail the same. The wax, the little tiny wax ball, which is one of these, is between his fingers. You can just see it there. Then he's patching up the inside of the hair to join onto the face, so he's adding more wax in this area. Next one. There the face is being joined to the top of the head. And these are the components of the face, top of the head, the ears and the shoulders on a very old tea towel. So there he's joining the head together, the back and the front. Working on the detail of the ears. So this is very soft wax sculpting, hollow inside. And there he's doing the finishing details on this for the casting. He's made a mold from that. And then attached here is a channel, which means that when the actual metal is poured in, when the wax is melted, the metal will run down the channel and fill the whole head, the whole cavity of the head. Next one. So there he's working on a sculpted image, which is just made of wax, and then this is a different kind of wax put on for the decoration here, which you can work in finer detail. That's his sister, older sister, working on the base, which is a wax base of a statue, so she's actually putting mud on the outside ready for the casting process. Next one, please. So this is a statue of the Buddha, and she's putting this very, very fine mud all over the wax statue, very, very carefully.
And it's really mud.
It's mud, yeah. And there it is, covered in mud. We can stay on this a sec. You can see the channels here, joined from the arm to the fingers. This is one of the arms, this is the other arm here. So the lower parts of the arms are cast separately, as is, I'm not sure what that is actually there, but something else is cast. Oh, that's the bowl of the Buddha, which will go in the arms, in between his hands at the bottom. So that's being cast. So you can see they make these little channels to where the actual, when they're doing the metal casting, the metal will flow into all of the parts of the statue. So this statue is just covered in mud and drying. Next one, please. That's dried with the first coat. There you can see the bowl that the Buddha will be holding. And there is this is a different statue. Can we cut the light? So this is a statue of Amitabha Buddha, and those are his hands which will be joined. There you can see the tubes once again. And at the bottom where the metal will actually be poured in. Next image. That's covered with mud, so it is getting thicker and thicker, and these are other things that are going to be cast at the same time in the background. This is making sure that all of the mud, there's no cracks between that so the wax is not going to seep out anywhere. Once again, putting this other layer of mud on top, which is a slightly thicker layer. Then this is mixing mud with straw husk, which is the outer. Then it becomes the outer mold. So all of these pieces here are images that have been made in wax ready for casting. Next one, please. So she's beginning to apply this very, very thick straw and mud mixture to the base, to the back of the statue. Again, the same thing. This is a crown Buddha, because you can see the crown, and you can also see the small channels that join various parts of the crown, so that when the copper is actually cast, it'll flow to everywhere. It's got to be very, very thin and very small channel. This is mixing much more of the mud and husk together, and that's a tube inside, which is also going to be used to lift the actual thing out when it's cast. It's a kind of thing that you can, it's a loop that you can hold onto. Next one. So this again is the Buddha, upside down, although it looks nothing like a Buddha now. Inside there is this very delicate wax image. Then these are put in the fire, on a very low flame, it's not very hot. Next image, please. So there you can see them in there. The hollow is at the bottom, so the wax now is just melting out, leaving the hollow inside, ready for the casting process. These are Buddhas here, and the wax is just stripping out underneath and burning. So all the wax is gone, leaving this very, very fine layer, very, very fine image inside of the form of the Buddha. This is where they're actually have the molds, and these are channels where the hot copper is going to go down. So they're just actually in the process of pouring the hot copper into these holes at the top. And if you notice, if you go back one, if you can. Oh, this one is fine. Sorry. He's actually got shoes on here, but the next one. This is the, oh, sorry, can we go back? The copper being melted in the fire, and you can see how hot the crucible is for the temperature. And this is kind of a stirring stick to make sure that the metal is completely shaken, so the metal is actually very liquid, there's no solid lumps in it. The lumps of copper they use are from all different sources, mainly from Germany, and the price of copper has gone up like 3 times in the last few years, so to actually make these statues is quite expensive work. Next image, please. And this is Rasan actually lifting that crucible out of the fire, and you can see he's only got sandals on. 1 drop from that hot copper would just burn right through his skin. Pouring the hot copper into the mold. You can see it's been poured into these ones already. So he just goes along the row, holding the crucible with the tongs. Next one, please. No, it's not it. It's halfway through. This is more, yeah. So here is also with a pair of tongs holding. It's hard to see what's happening here, actually. I've only seen these images once, so I've only showed them once before. Next one, please. So that's again the detail of the pouring, and you can see they got flip-flops on over here. And sometimes the metal does actually spit. My brother-in-law is sitting at the front, he's a metallurgist, so he probably knows a lot more about this process than me. Partly why I'm showing it today. I got to give Richard something to relate to, because he worked all of his life as a metallurgist. So once again, pouring the hot copper into the molds. Next one, please. And then the molds are out. They come out very quickly. Here's the copper bits that are melted. And they're broken open very quickly, because the copper solidifies quite quickly. Next one. So there you can see the beginning of a Buddha. They're just hitting it with breaking the mixture of mud and wheatgrass. Next one. And there's the image of the Buddha appearing. inside. And now there's always flaws. You can see there's going to be a flaw here, there's a flaw across the face. So to actually work on these things takes a long, long time. Next one, please. There's a piece that's been carefully cut just to show how the tubing here is still intact. And that was just a mold of the Buddha's head he was making at the very beginning. You can recognize it's the same Buddha head because of the earrings. Now these are all the chisels that are used for the hammering process, which is many, many different kinds of chisels. And each one has a particular function to do with the carving of the statue. Once a statue is cast, then the carving can take... I've seen a statue that people have worked on for 2 years, and it's only the size of the Buddha downstairs. A statue of Green Tara I saw just recently. It was 2 years solid work. I thought it was 6 months, but the caster and the sculptor told me it had taken 2 years just to make it. It was exquisitely beautiful. The price of something like that for 2 years' work, and it's only a small statue, people can't understand why they're so expensive when you can go and buy them in the market, but they're not made in this way, and they're not made by master carvers, casters, or carvers. All of the work that's in this gallery is made by really incredible artists. Some of the pieces downstairs, the artists, in 3 or 4 years' time, I could never buy a piece of their work because they're becoming so great in Kathmandu. But I just got so much of it that it's all everywhere in the house, and it's rolled up under the bed and in cupboards and stuffed everywhere, so it's kind of time to keep the wheel turning. Next one, please. So, first of all, he's working here on hammering every part of the face, because there are tiny pockets where the casting inside is not completely solid. So it's work hammered inside and it's hammered outside, so that everything is compacted, and this gives a hardness to the copper, because copper is quite a soft metal, so it's almost like annealing the metal to make it harder, or tempering it. Next one. Finer work, working on a wooden block, so he'd be working here every day, maybe for 10 days, 2 weeks on this face, just to kind of get all the detail correct in every part of the hair to make sure it swirls. Every swirl is exactly the same as the other one. Next image, please. That's a detail of Maitreya Buddha, crowned Maitreya, wearing all the ornaments before carving and after carving. Can we stay on this a sec? Or can we go back to the other one just a moment? Maitreya Buddha wears a deer skin. You can see it just part of the deer skin. Avalokiteshvara is the Bodhisattva of compassion. Maitreya is the Bodhisattva of loving kindness. And they're the only 2 deities in the Tibetan pantheon, or Buddhist pantheon, who wear a deer skin over their left shoulder. You can always recognize Avalokiteshvara by this deer skin over the shoulder. But Maitreya has the added attribute of a stupa, a chotan on the crown of his head. These hollows here are put in turquoise and coral stone inside. They usually ornament these little tiny hollows with tiny turquoise and coral. Also one will go there at the top of the head. And at the very top, this is a jewel crowning. But you can see how this has changed into this, and it really is quite a lot of work to do this, because it's such a skillful job to create it in 3 dimensions. Next image, please. Also showing a skirt and then the detail, which is probably not quite finished, but he's working the detail there, so all of these will have individual stones, precious stones put in later on. This carving is very, very delicate, done on the surface here. Next one. A detail of the same kind of carving. Originally is like that, and then you make it like this. So you can see there's already 2 layers here. So to create this effect from that is quite difficult. Next one, please. Another detail of the beautiful, beautiful carving. The Buddha downstairs, somebody wrote a review. I looked at some of the reviews of this exhibition. That's the Maitreya finished, and you can see the deer skin over his shoulder here. He's holding his water flask. and the super is on the crown of his head. Next one. Just showing detail with some of the stones put in on this particular statue. This is the government seal. You have to get everything stamped in Kathmandu. Usually you just pay a bribe to the archaeological department. Next one, please. That's a standing Buddha. This is Dipankara Buddha. A very beautiful carving. I think the back of this is very ornamented. And then the halo around the top. There's a small image of Dipankara down in the cupboard downstairs. But this is quite a big piece. It's probably about 18 inches high. Next one. This is the medicine Buddha, crowned medicine Buddha, holding the Murabalam plant, which is the cherry plum, which is used as a remedy for all diseases. If anybody knows anything about statuary, this design on this whole thing, there was a great statue maker from Mongolia called Zanabazar, the first Jetson Dampa, and his work now is incredibly expensive. He basically based his designs, he's dead of course, 400 years ago, but his designs were based on Newar statues, and these very, very precious Mongolian statues which are sold for literally $500,000, $1 million, $2 million in auction are based on these Newar designs. So, next one please. The detail of the face. This is a Padmapani probably, because there's a lotus here. Next one. This is standing Padmapani without his deerskin over his shoulder. Great. So this is a mandala. Let's talk about the mandala instead of the cosmos, unfortunately, the Wheel of Life. This is mandala of Etam Avalokiteshvara, who stands on the central dais of this lotus ring here, with the 4 Buddhas of 4 directions around, and there's 8 petals here, and the central thing is a dais which is slightly raised. That's inside a square hall, which has got 4 coloured quadrants, and the colours correspond to the Buddhas in each of these directions. So at the bottom is, in this particular mandala, is a Mogassiddhi Buddha who's green. This is green, I believe, yeah? No, is it?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm colourblind, so people have to help me. This is the south quadrant, which is Ratnasambhava. It's yellow colours to do with wealth. The green colour is to do with the transmutation of jealousy. Green Tara is the kind of consort of this particular Buddha. This is to do with wealth, the colour of earth, yellow colour, or the colour of jewels. White is the colour of Vairocana. At the top is the water element. And red over here. You didn't hear it at all?
I didn't hear the white bit.
White is the colour of Vairocana Buddha. You probably don't know who Vairocana Buddha is, so the trouble with this is so technical, all of the terminology that's used in there.
The microphones.
Okay, sorry. And this is the colour of Amitabha, red, and his element is fire. So we have the element of air, the element of earth, the element of water, and the element of fire over here. This is red?
No, it's actually green.
Oh, it's green, okay. And this is the blue colour. So he's actually standing at the centre of this divine palace, and the palace has 4 gateways, and the walls of the palace are made from 5 coloured light, which is blue on the inside, then green, then red, then yellow, and white on the outside. So you can actually, when you visualise this mandala, every deity has this divine palace, which is like a palace with 4 gateways, and often there's a big retinue of deities inside. Outside of that is a platform where these offering goddesses stand, which is red in colour. This is the upper walls and the roof ornaments of the actual palace, and these are the gateways. Outside of this is the ground of the mandala, and on the roof are these ornaments of vases, banners, flags, parasols, and these deities flying in the sky above, and clouds here. Outside of that are 3 circles, which are 3 protection wheels. One consists of lotus petals, 64 lotus petals. The next one consists of 32 vajras, which are scepters made from indestructible material. Vajra is the main instrument of Vajrayana Buddhism. It describes indestructible or indivisible reality. And outside of that is a circle of flames, which is called the Mountain of Fire, which has 32 different coloured banks, either in a sequence of 4 colours or 5 colours. When there's a male deity, these flames circled in the clockwise direction. When it's a female deity, they go anti-clockwise. So we have right hand is male, left hand is female. Right hand is clockwise, left hand is anti-clockwise. So right hand is dexterous, left hand is sinister. So a lot of the left hand practices in India were associated with Dakinis, women who are like witches who lived in the charnel grounds, and this was amongst the Shakti cults of India, so it's a lot to do with very necromantic imagery, blood and skulls and all of these kind of things. So these 3 protection wheels, essentially, this one protects from floods, the lotuses, because the lotus floats upon water. The next one is a fence made of impenetrable, indestructible material, which covers the whole mandala. And the third one is a mountain of fire, which makes a dome over the whole mandala. So, Sipo, if we go slowly, if we can move this cursor slowly, we will begin to see how this changes from 2 dimensions into 3 dimensions. So this whole background disappears, just leaving a structure here. So these are the walls here, and the gateways. This red is the platform outside of the mandala. This grey colour underneath is a big block on which the whole mandala palace sits. There's the central dais with the 8 petals around. These are going to be 8 pillars which support the roof of the palace. And then they're starting to come up in 3 dimensions. So you can see that the walls are blue inside and white on the outside here. That's the red platform around the base. The gateways are coming up. The gateways are made of either 9, 11 or 13 different layers of precious stones. Now you begin to see that this is a big square block underneath with a crossed vajra going right through it with the 4 directional colours inside and steps going up on either side. In Tibet, you have, can you hold it there a second? In all the monasteries, like in Lhasa, you have 3 sets of steps. One is for the regular monks, one is for the kind of abbots and the high lamas, and one is for the Dalai Lama. The central one is for the Dalai Lama. All of the steps in the temples and palaces in Lhasa, the steps aren't worn at all where the Dalai Lama is. Only one person is allowed to go up and down them. And the abbots is slightly worn, and of course where the monks go is completely worn. So there's these kind of three hierarchy within the Tibetan tradition. So here you can see the gateways come in. These are the pillars inside, blue walls. These are the doorways and the gateways on the top, crowned by a pair of deer with a wheel in the middle, which is a symbol of the Buddha's first teaching in the Deer Parkatsana. We can move on a little bit. You can see the cross vajra interpenetrating the whole block. There's 33 stairs on each of these. Everything in here has got a specific measurement and a specific number.
Why 33?
Why? Because there's 33 factors of enlightenment in this particular, I think 33 steps. 37 factors, but I believe it's 33 steps. Then the roof is coming on. Somebody's probably going to count and prove me wrong. So this is the white wall outside. Then the gateway. These are pillars in vases, golden vases, which are treasure vases. The pillars are all made of precious stones. Up here is a lattice work of 7 layers of precious stones like emerald and crystal and gold, silver, lapis lazuli, ruby, like that, all laid on together. And then around the very top is a lotus parapet around here. And this is the structure of the roof. And there are 112 beams, 28 in each direction, in each quadrant, which run across, and then laid on top of that is a herringbone pattern of wood, and on top of that is Vajra mud. Everything has got a measurement, a thickness, and the whole thing is perfectly symmetrical. The height from the top to the bottom is the same as the width. And then these big circles, protection wheels that go outside, form arches over it, like a big dome over the whole building. So can we go back to the beginning and let it run through? It's like Lego land. But the roof goes on. Don't. Okay. We can go to the last one. That one, yeah. So this is a quick, yeah, you can zoom through, I think, quickly. The same mandala, but you're going to take a look inside when the door opens. The door is very tall and narrow, opens outwards. That's the central dais in there, and these are the 8 petals. The deity stands on the centre. This is the 7 layers of precious stones. Those are the 28 beams in each direction, each of the 4 directions, these 8 pillars. These are very ornamented at the top. This is the roof and the skylight. That's the lotus parapet outside. And that's the back of the lotus parapet. Those are the wheel and the deer. And we're pulling out and going back outside the mandala. There you can see the roof beams, and underneath, above those, are the rain spouts. This is actually a very simple Lego-like construction of what the mandala is, because it's so complicated. It's got everything in it. It's got specific measurements, specific symbolism, and it's made of specific materials. So this is a divine palace to the deity, which is based on the human proportion. And in the actual tantric practices that you do perform in Vajrayana Buddhism, the whole practice is designed essentially to mimic the death experience, because if you can actually mimic the death experience, you can have control over your rebirth as a Tibetan tukku. Tukku is one of the 3 bodies of a Buddha. It's the form body. So their belief is if you perform these practices over a lifetime and lifetimes, eventually when you die you will be able to control where you'll next be reborn, and come back with memories or the ability to quickly relearn everything that you've forgotten in that space in between lives. The next talk I'm giving is on Tuesday, and it's basically about the space between lives, seen from the Tibetan tradition and seen from the perspective of modern research, which gives a very much more, in my mind, a much more profound and reassuring picture. So, this is how the mandala palace is used. So in the first part of these tantric practices, you imagine yourself as a deity inside the center of this palace, and then you develop the idea that you have the pride of that deity and the clear appearance, the divine pride and the clear appearance of that particular deity that you're meditating on. And then you begin to work with the channels inside the body by doing yogic practices, which are the chakras and the channels in the body, which everything on this is on the second disc, which looks like they're not going to be able to access today. And then in the last part, you actually use the mandala itself as being the universe. So you visualize yourself as being the whole universe, essentially, and gain the ability to kind of have this ability to absorb enormous amounts of wisdom and compassion, to develop them very, very quickly. So this is the purpose of these tantric deities. The Dalai Lama says the best way to become a Buddha is to imagine yourself as one. So that's the basis for a lot of these deity practices, is basically to be able to work for the benefit of other people, not only on this particular life, but to come back and then work again. So you have this whole system in Tibet of tukus, reincarnate lamas. The first, of course, was the Karmapa, which goes back to the 10th, 11th century, and then the Dalai Lama himself, of course. So you have these incarnate lamas, some of which are great, other ones not so great. Some of the modern tukus, I think, are not so bright. But some of the old ones are really, really great, like the Dalai Lama. We can go to the beginning of this. The first image. The first, on the same one, yeah.
Oh, the first video?
Yeah. No, the second. Is it the first or the second? The second, I think. I thought it was thunder, it's me with a microphone. Sorry. This was going to be part of the cosmology imagery. This is how the mandala palace of Kalachakra, this deity, is at the top. We're going to go into it in some detail now. So this palace rests on these 5 horns, 5 colours, green at the centre, blue, red, yellow and white in each of the directions. The sun and moon circle this palace, because the palace itself rests upon top of the great mountain, which is called Mount Meru, at the centre of the universe. So this is a very, very complicated mandala with, I think, 727 deities inside it, which are symbolised by these syllables. Am I right? 727? Anybody know? There's 2 traditions. One is 600 and something, and one is, I think, 727. This is showing Mount Meru, which is the mountain at the centre of the universe, which is like an inverted pyramid. It's conical in shape. Can we stop here? Can we stop? Stop. Oh, okay. Okay, that's good. It's conical in shape, and it rises from in the very centre of the universe. Our particular will system is one of the continents in the great ocean which surrounds it around here. So the great mountain has 4 faces, and the colours of the faces are different in 2 main traditions in Tibetan Buddhism. This is the Kalachakra system, which is quite late. It was introduced in Tibet in 1042, sorry. And the other system is the Abhidharma system, which dates from the 4th or 5th century. Aha. We have somebody who might be solving this problem. At the centre of the universe is this great mountain, and at the very top of it, in this case, is that mandala palace of Kalachakra. The mountain is surrounded by 6 rings of smaller mountains with 6 oceans in between them. The oceans are made from molasses, from honey, from milk, from curd, from fresh water and wine. And outside of these rings of mountains and oceans is this great ocean in which the various continents float. And we are on the southern continent here, and this is called Jambudvipa, the land of the continent of the rose apple, where human beings dwell. And in each of these are different dimensions of space, if you like, or different universes where other beings live, some of whom are very tall, some of them have the heads of horses and the bodies of humans, and they're quite strange. Everything in this is precisely measured. This measures 100 yojanas across, or 100 leagues. This is the earth disk underneath, and then the next is the water disk. I'll explain those in a bit. But the measurements of this particular system come from the most subtle particle, which are all these little tiny bits that you see rising up, like atoms around here. They're called very subtle particles. 8 of these very subtle particles is equal to a subtle particle. 8 subtle particles is equal to an iron particle. 8 iron particles is equal to a water particle. A water particle is the smallest drop of water that can float in the air, like in a mist. So you have this system of measurements coming from a subatomic to a very molecular level. Then 8 water particles is equal to a rabbit particle, which is the tip of the hair of a rabbit. 8 rabbit hairs is equal to the tip of a sheep's hair. 8 sheep's hair tip is equal to an ox's hair. 8 ox's hairs is equal to the size of a louse. 8 louse is equal to the thickness of a barley grain. 8 barley grains are equal to the thickness of a human finger, the middle finger. 24 fingers makes a cubit, which is a different distance from the elbow to the tip of the fingers. 4 cubits makes a bow shot, or an arm span, which is the height of a being. 2,000 bow shots makes a year shot. 2,000 bows makes a year shot, which is the distance that sound travels across an empty plane. And 4 year shots or 8 year shots makes a league. So this is 100,000 leagues across. So these are vast measurements of space. There's another system of measurement, but just to give you an idea of the spatial measurements. Then we have measurements of time. The measurements of time is that human beings have every day take 21,600 breaths. In a 12-hour period, that's 10,800, which is why we have the number 108 as being a sacred number in Tibetan Buddhism. The rosary is the 108 beads. Then, in the different heavens, which are up above here, the beings who live in the heavens have progressively larger lifespans until you get to the ultimate heaven, which are the formless realms, where the beings in that realm, each breath is 21,600 years. So they live for enormous eons of time. The smallest creatures are called the insect breath. The insect breath is 360 times smaller than a human breath. And the level of the first gods is 30 times longer than a human life. So you have these enormous kind of divisions of time and these enormous divisions of space. So right going back to pretty much the 2nd century of our era, or even earlier, these things were all kind of codified in Buddhist texts, which are based on the Jain text on cosmology, because a lot of the cosmology in Buddhism comes from the Jain religion. Their astrology comes from the Chinese religion, the Chinese tradition, and the Dharma itself comes from the Indian Buddhist tradition. Can we move through this one a bit now? So this is an earth disk here. Next is a disk of water, which is twice the size. Then outside of that is a disk of fire. And then ultimately is a disk of wind. So the wind is the outer one. So these are the subtle particles. If we can let it move through, you can actually see the kind of shimmering that takes place. So these are supposed to be the particles moving out from these disks to create this whole structure. And the reason why this happened in the beginning was because of collective karma. From a previous kind of universe, winds came together to create this original maelstrom of wind, which then produced water, which then churned and produced elements inside the water, which became earth. So all of these things came from chaos, essentially, which is governed by karma. This is the complicated palace of Kalachakra. And that's the mantra of Kalachakra, with the 10 syllables of his mantra. We can go through it again, I think. Yeah, you can, if you click, I think you can run. Being as we can access the second disk. Have we got any luck with the second disk?
Yeah, it's going to take a few minutes to load in the computer. How much longer, St. Paul?
I've got about half an hour, according to the clock.
Should work.
So there you can see Mount Meru. Rises up like an inverted pyramid at the top. And these are the discs. That's the earth disk at the center. The water disk is here. The fire disk is here, and the wind disk is here. And these are all the particles rising up. And they're at the top of the palace, resting on these 5 horns. which nobody really knows what they look like. They're just described as being 5 holes. This is Edward's idea when he made this, but the palace is 100% accurate because he's a genius doing these things. You can see the jewel hangings, which are one of the features of the mandala. The water spouts are here. This is the lotus parapet. These are the gateways with all of the superstructure on top with the vases and parasols, ornaments inside. And then you go straight in, and the top is the main shrine. You can see the lotus circle here. The deity Kalachakra is represented by the syllables. Because a lot of the mandalas, the deities are actually represented by their seed syllables, because every deity has a sound, is produced from the sound, has a seed syllable from which they arise. When you visualize in the practices of visualization, from emptiness arises a syllable, and from that syllable comes the moon, and from the moon comes a lotus or an ocean of milk, and then eventually you have the form of the deity appearing. So there's all of these visualizations. You create it from emptiness. You imagine yourself in the form of that deity. Imagine yourself to have the divine pride and the clear appearance. And so in the process, you're basically using visualization like a form of hypnosis to transform yourself into a pure being, so that when you die you can experience the clear light and rise up from the clear light in a pure illusory body, which is a body without form, in the form of a deity, rather than being lost in the space between lives. So like a deity, you come back and take birth in this realm again in order to help other human beings. This is the central theory of Vajrayana Buddhism, is to help beings through compassion and wisdom. Next, there's one more on here. Yeah. I'm sorry I'm confusing you. It's a huge subject. If you buy my encyclopedia and read chapter 5, it's got all of this stuff and much more. And it's much more concise. I could have read it here, really. So this is a cross vajra again, with the 5 colours centred in this. The Kalachakra system is completely different from every other system. These syllables, which are Tibetan syllables here, but they have Sanskrit sounds, and each one of these represents a different deity. Here is a beam that runs around the top with the different elements. The elements of the triangle is the element of fire, the round one is the element of water, the square one is the element of earth, the half one is the half section is the element of wind, and the beam upon which they are is the element of space. So you have all of these symbols inside. We can move a bit more slowly. These are pillars that support the roof. Each one of these is a head, which is called Kirtimukha, face of glory. And this head consumes nets of jewels. These are the stairs going up to the upper palace, the upper floor here. The pillars themselves are ornamented, made of different kind of precious stones, and each side of the mandala has the images of the Buddha. This is wheels. There will be vajras and jewels, lotuses and swords on other parts of the mandala. These are the rain spouts. These are the beams that run through the roof. On top of that is the herringbone pattern of layers of slats of wood that make up the roof, and on top is the lotus parasol. Once again, you can see the vases and parasols on the top, banners and parasols. These are the 4 colours of the mandala, once again. This is the mandala that the Dalai Lama gives the Kalachakra initiation for, and the whole initiation takes, I think, about 10 days, and they make an actual mandala of sand, which is a 2-dimensional representation of this. So, wow. Should we move on to something? I'll try. Going back to the measurements of time, the insect breath is 360 times faster than a human breath, because an insect will often just live for 1 day. or several days, you know, it's very, very quick, so they believe that the insects would just breathe in very, very fast. Then you have human and animal breath, and then you have ghost breath. Ghost breath is 30 times faster or slower than humans. So ghosts, although they appear to be here forever, they're actually, what appears to be 30 years is actually 10 years, or no, 1 year is 1 year. So a ghost is living in a completely different time cycle, if you like. And then on other planes, you have the gods who live far, far longer. And when this was painted in the 1940s in Tibet. This was actually painted in Tibet. I had the good fortune to acquire it back in the early 1980s. Anyway, these are, in the bottom is, I think, 11, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 ladies wasting their time doing things like gossiping, playing games, they're playing Go, they're reading poetry, they're painting, they're doing drama, they're doing all of these wonderful things, and this is their outcome over this side. Whatever you do on this plane, you can end up like this. The Wheel of Life is originally dates from the time of the Buddha. It's said that the Buddha described the Wheel of Life. He described it evidently with grains of rice and stalks. He drew, like Jesus when he was at the woman taken in adultery, he drew on the floor. The Buddha described the Wheel of Life with grains and straw sticks, and he described it like a Persian water wheel, that these 12 links around the outside pour into each other like buckets and go round and round and round and round and round. And these are the 12 conditions that create cyclic existence. I'm not going to talk about those. But what I want to say with this particular image is the earliest image of this particular painting is at Ajanta on the outside of Cave 17. And it's virtually destroyed, but you can see a little section of this area at the top. And it appeared to have 18 sections in it, and it appeared to have 10 realms of existence, which is quite odd because we have 12 links. We're only taught there are 12 links of dependent origination and either 5 or 6 realms of existence. But you can clearly see that back then there was a much more complicated idea of cyclic existence than there is now. So gradually these 12 links around the outside became reduced to these 12 links, although originally there were more. 3 of the links can be seen. One of them is drinking, which is this, where is drinking? Here, I think, or here, it's hard to see. One is a person being offered a drink. Another one is a blind camel being led across the desert, which doesn't appear at all in this Wheel of Life, which the symbolism of which is lost, it doesn't exist anymore. At the central hub of this wheel are 3 creatures, a black pig, a red cockerel, and a green snake. The black pig represents ignorance, the red cockerel represents lust or desire, greed, and the snake, being venomous, represents hatred or aversion. So these are the 3 primary causes of cyclic existence. Good, we can blow up. We can blow up more, I think. Can we blow up more in the center? Yeah. Great, okay. And they are chasing each other, biting each other's tails, essentially. You can see the snake is trying to bite the cockerel and the pig. They're going round and round. So the cause of suffering in cyclic existence, which are all in these realms around here, is caused by these 3 primary poisons of ignorance, which gives rise to desire, and from desire we get aversion. A thing is great for a while and then it becomes really bad, like LSD, for example. I was watching a program on what was his name last night? He blew his brains out.
Peter Green.
Thompson.
Sid Barrett?
No, it wasn't Sid Barrett. Peter Green was a great guitarist. And he's, as Jill said, he'd fried his brains. He certainly had, poor thing. And he became averse. He actually got a gun and wanted to shoot his accountant. He didn't do that. They hospitalised him. And the poor thing had electric shock therapy instead, which is terrible, really. That's what fried his brains, not the LSD. Anyway, these are the 3 primary poisons which cause this wheel to spin. And around here, this is the actual bardo of the 6 realms of existence here. So beings going up to the God realm is shown being upright, going into the human realm, they're kind of leaning over here. Going into the Asura realm, they're also leaning over. So these are the three upper realms. These are the three fortunate realms where beings can take rebirth. And underneath are the three lower realms. You can see here is like a yak is going into the animal realm. Hell beings, they are upside down, they walk upside down, as do hungry ghosts over here. They're falling into these realms. So we have these 6 realms of existence. These are the gods, these are the jealous gods. They're always at war with the gods because of this tree which grows which has its roots in the realm of the jealous gods, but all of the fruit and flowers go to the gods. These are the heavenly realms at the top. This is a human realm with 8 different kinds of suffering. The suffering of being born, of illness, of aging and death are shown in there, as is the suffering of not having what you want or losing what you have, being separated from what you love. So all of these are graphically represented, like for example there's an old person here and then there's a corpse up here being carried to the charnel grounds. There's a person ploughing here, which represents karma and reaping up here. So this is somebody being carried to the charnel grounds. Then we go down to the animal realm over here. And then across here to the hungry ghost realm. So, jealousy is the problem of the jealous gods. Pride is the problem of the gods. Desire and contamination of all of the other realms is what causes us to be brought in the human realm. The animals is stupidity or ignorance. Greed and lust creates rebirth in the hungry ghost realm, and anger, aggression and violence creates rebirth in the hell realm. Yeah.
Is there any reason for the sort of imbalance of the apportioning of space? It's not symmetrical.
No, it can be. It depends on the person. No, that depends on the image being depicted. These folks are not concentric.
Exactly.
So, they've given much more space to the hell realm, for example, and the human realm, and the god and the jealous god realm, because there's a lot more imagery happening in here. For example, the gods can only be killed if their heads are cut off, but the jealous gods can be killed. They're vulnerable in every part of their body, so they always lose. They always go to war with the gods over this tree. They want the best things and they can't get them. They're like Americans, really. Sorry. Trying to invade different countries just to get resources that they want, because these are the resources, the fruits of the tree, which causes wealth and fruits and flowers, beautiful scents. And the gods are led here by Indra on his 6-tusked elephant, and Indra holds the Vajra in his hand as the main weapon, and his 6-tusked elephant has a chakra in his trunk. So they're fighting this war. The hungry ghosts, they have huge bellies, very, very thin necks, and pinhole mouths, and their legs and arms are very, very thin and fragile. So they can only kind of walk very carefully from place to place because their enormous stomachs can't support the weight of their body. And they see things in the distance, they see water, so they have mirages. They go to the water, and when they get there, it's disappeared or it's turned into pus or blood or something, and then or fire. In the Japanese tradition, in Tokyo Museum, these are called gaki in Japan. In Tokyo Museum, they have paintings of 36 different kinds of these hungry ghosts, and they're great. Some of them live on people's shoulders and eat the dandruff that comes out of the hair. Other ones eat the earwax. Other ones consume live coals. Some of them live on beaches. Some of them drink semen. Some of them drink menstrual blood. But you get these kind of hints of these beings around if you go to Soho when it's very quiet, 4 o'clock in the morning or something, as you're walking through on your own. You can feel that there's all these kind of presences lurking, waiting to catch you for something. And they tend to kind of control the realm of greed and desire, essentially. The hell realm's a pretty heavy place, and they have 8 cold hells, 8 hot hells down here. Then 4 surrounding hells and 2 auxiliary hells. I won't describe what goes on in there, but this essentially is Yama, the Lord of the Dead. Everybody who comes before Yama